Varmt välkomna allihopa till den här kvällen, samtal om Turkiet. Jag byter språk direkt till engelska. Warmly welcome everyone to this evening about Turkey. An evening that was quickly arranged, which is only possible if you collaborate between different fantastic organizations. And I want to say thank you to Susin from Dramatikerförbundet who came with a brilliant idea. And we ganged up with Författarförbundet, Palmecenter and ABF. And my name is Hanna Nordell and I work for Swedish PEN. And we are very proud to be here today, also together with our international president, Burhan Sönmez, who is in town just for a couple of days. So this was an important moment for us to invite you here for an event. We are also very happy to hear Ragip Zarakolu, who is here, who was a former ICON resident. You will be more introduced by Kurdo Baksi, who is our moderator. Bitte Hammargren, wonderful to have you here. You are a strong voice on Turkey, and you will give us insight to your work on the subject. Also, Viveka Sjögren from Författarförbundet, you will also join the conversation with highlighting some of the work that you are doing right now. I want to let all of you know that we are streaming and broadcasting this event via Facebook, so you are aware that this is being broadcasted online, and we will also publish the event afterwards on our YouTube channel. I won't take more of your time. With that, I want to give the floor to tonight's moderator, Kurdo Baksi. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Hanna Nordell, Swedish PEN, and thank you to everybody. Is it okay I use this microphone? Yeah? And I am very happy that the Swedish Writers Association, Swedish PEN, and the others have really done a very quick job, and now we are going to have 4 speakers, and I will give them about 12 minutes to every person. I hope that it will be Swedish 12 minutes, not Kurdish 12 minutes. And then maybe if I am lucky, if I have time, maybe I will ask a little question, but I think my guests are so good in their job, so I will not need to ask them anything. The first guest is Bitte Hammargren. She is a very well-known Turkey expert and also have been written before in Svenska Dagbladet, the morning newspaper in Sweden, very famous. And also she is now analyst. And now I will invite up her and say to her, what happens in Turkey? Bitte Hammargren, you have 12 minutes about 100 years of Turkey. Welcome and applause.
Well, like everybody knows, one would need at least 1 week to explain what's happening in Turkey. But on the other hand, 1 week is a long time in Turkish politics, as the late President Süleyman Demirel used to say. So much is happening. Now, if I seem to have a bloody nose here, it's not because anybody assaulted me coming here. I have some nose bleeding, so I hope it works anyway. Well, talking about what's happening, what's going on in Turkey, let's have a look at the intersection of what's happening with Turkey, with NATO, with Sweden and Finland's membership bid for NATO, and northern Syria, and the other NATO countries in this spectrum, before we go into the issues of freedom of speech in Turkey. We have so many renowned experts in this room, so I feel very humble speaking here. Now, if we go to the Turkish side, there's our elections coming up. There is a huge downslide in the economy, as everyone is aware of. The opinion polls are against the ruling alliance between Erdogan's AKP and the ultra-nationalist MHP. And there's also a growing anger in the country against the continued presence of the 3.7 million Syrians in the country. I was recently there doing interviews on the issue. So this is being capitalized by the opposition against the government, blaming the government for this situation. And the government, on the other hand, is then launching new invasions into northern Iraq, as you know, with the new ground and air campaigns against the PKK. And the nationalist sentiments are on the rise. Young soldiers are coming home in coffins. There's footage in Turkish media on this. So people are rallying behind the flags. And the issue of nationalism in Turkey transcends the different political parties. So the major opposition parties cannot go against the government on this issue. So this plays into the hand of the government. So could he then win the elections, which will be held at the latest point in June next year, but they can also be held earlier? Well, we don't know, but the Kurdish votes are decisive in Turkey. We've seen this before. We saw this in the local elections in Istanbul, for instance. And the pro-Kurdish party, HDP, might be banned before that. And their leader, former leader Demirtas, is in prison, as you know, against the ruling of the European Court of Human Rights. So if many Kurds will be alienated, refrain from voting, this will most probably play into the hands of the ruling alliance like it is right now. And as somebody said to me, if you would get the PKK leader on the Imrali island, Abdullah Öcalan, if you would make him say, don't vote for the opposition either, then surely the ruling elite will stay in power again. And now there's also then the risk of a new Turkish intervention in northern Syria, aiming to connect the last chunk of land between what was taken during the Operation Peace Spring and during the Euphrates Shield operation, meaning Manbij and Kobane, which is then held by the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, basically the YPG, which Turkey labels as a terrorist organization. So this means that there is likely to be a shrinking space for Kurds in northern Syria. Such an invasion will infuriate many capitals in NATO. I would say also, in my understanding, in the Pentagon, which has been relying heavily on the YPG, as you know, for fighting ISIS. And experts that I talk to, they don't see that the Biden administration will be abandoning the YPG as Turkey wants. So, in this intersection of different actors playing around now, we also have the Swedish elections, as you know, and we also know that the Social Democrats want this NATO bid to be over long before the elections. We will see if this will be the case or not, but I think it's very important for Sweden and Finland to go together. And I may come back to the issue of who can say that time is on our side when President Erdogan is raising the stakes against Sweden. Because we also have then the NATO summit in the end of June held in Madrid. And of course, the Finnish and Swedish NATO membership bids will be one of the core issues. And another issue will be the strategic concept for NATO, which is not yet sort of finalized. But if Turkey would be the stumbling block for both these issues, Turkey will have to pay a price within the alliance. So if Erdogan will use his vetoing power against Sweden and Finland, he will be seen as more erratic, more unreliable. And when I talk to a NATO expert, they say that NATO 29, I mean the other NATO countries, they can probably find a formula of some kind to make Turkey pay a price. We don't know exactly what that formula would be, but like somebody said, a magician could make a white rabbit pop up from his hat to make Turkey pay a price if it is a stumbling block against Finland and Sweden. And Turkey, of course, is advocating that it has been a vital partner in the alliance in the Balkans, in Afghanistan, which is true. But talking to NATO experts again, they said that Turkey has been seen as a troublemaker in the alliance, actually since the 70s, since the invasion of northern Cyprus and other issues. And moreover, of course, Turkey has been seen increasingly as anti-Western. And the big issue here was, of course, the acquisition of the Russian air defense system S-400, which is not activated, but yet Turkey was ousted from the F-35 program, which Turkey also was a big manufacturer of. And Turkey could not buy those 100 airplanes it expected to have, train its pilots. And now there are the US sanctions against Turkey upgrading its existing F-16 fleet or buying new ones. Sanctions in the US. When it comes to Russia, Turkey needs to appease Russia somehow. It does sell drones to Ukraine, which are very efficient. But on the other hand, it's not applying sanctions against Russia. It did close the straits for Russian warships, but like people said, what cargo could be on the civilian ships? We don't know. And Turkey is dependent on Russia for gas, on Idlib issue, for tourism. Russia is building a new nuclear power plant in Turkey. So Russia managed to draw a wedge inside NATO between Turkey and the rest of the alliance, and it wants to draw it further, of course. So then the spat between Turkey, Finland, and Sweden boils down to a number of questions. What can President Erdogan get from this? Who will pull this white rabbit from the hat at the NATO summit? And if Sweden give concessions, will President Erdogan ask for more? My guess is yes. And I would say it's inconceivable for Sweden to compromise on the rule of law. So who in this trilateral drama, Sweden, Finland, Turkey, can say with ease, time is on our side? I would say it's Sweden and Finland, actually. Like one high-level source that I talked to said that this issue with Turkey can be resolved. It's not the end of the world if it won't happen at the NATO summit in June. Turkey can't block this forever. So Erdogan is then raising the stakes with his demands on Sweden. Do I have a few more minutes on this? So if we go through the list, did Turkey really present a list of names of people it want to have extradited? Well, the President's Directorate of Communications had said so. It said that Turkey has demanded the extradition of terrorists from Sweden since 2017, but has yet to wait for a positive response. But to me, it seems that old names are floating around. It did happen that Sweden extradited people if solid evidence was supplied. Maybe we can discuss this further later on. In the statement, Turkey is also demanding an end to financing of terrorism, claiming that Sweden provides $367 million in support of the PKK and the PYD. Now, if you go to these figures, it's exactly the equivalent of Sweden's Syria strategy, which goes for humanitarian aid. It goes for supporting the neighboring countries which are hosting Syrians, Turkey being one of them. And it goes also for enhancing the capacity of municipalities to host Syrian refugees. So if you would say that Sweden has to meet the demands of not financing terrorism, it's already made, because the money goes for humanitarian aid and for capacity building for Syrians, also in hosting countries. So then we have the issue of ceasing arms support for the PKK, where Turkey is citing reports that Swedish government provided anti-tank weapons to the PKK captured in northern Iraq. Now, the comments you hear is that these weapons appear to be US manufactured, and it can easily be checked from where they come if you check the serial numbers. When it comes to the arms embargo that Turkey is demanding Sweden to finalize, well, you can say that many other NATO countries also stopped arms deliveries to Turkey after the invasion in northern Syria in 2019. And the head of the armament group of the Swedish Inspectorate of Strategic Products, Carl Evertsson, says that currently there is no arms embargo in Turkey, and Sweden examines applications for arms sales individually. So it's up for grab right now. I think it's to be negotiated. But what Sweden has been selling to Turkey is really peanuts as compared to the big arms providers, the United States, for instance, so I mean with the airplanes. Then we have the issue of demand of closing the PYD office, I mean the political wing of the YPG, of the Syrian Kurds. I don't expect this to happen because, first of all, the PYD is also a partner to so many other NATO countries, being the US, France, and others. And also, Turkey never asked Russia to close down the PYD office. But not only that, in capitals in the West, many see the PYD as the best partner in Syria. Bluntly speaking, they see it as a secular party with a gender awareness, efficient in fighting Daesh, ISIS, and holding camps with tens of thousands of jihadis. So it's vital, important. And also a reminder, Turkey was not seen as a reliable partner during the first years of jihadism in Syria. So Turkey's argument that the PKK and the Gülenists are worse terrorists than ISIS, like they used to say to Western diplomats before, did not resonate well in the ears of Western diplomats. Maybe my time is running out?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Okay. So what about the PKK and PYD? Well, of course they have links, although it's not really politically correct for Western politicians to say so, but that's politics. You just have to ask the leaders of the PYD themselves, like Salih Muslim, the former head of the PYD, whom I interviewed a number of times, and he openly says that we share the same ideas and philosophy as Öcalan. And this is bluntly the message here. So I think I could stop there.
Thank you very much, Bitte Hammargren. Thank you very much, Mrs. Bitte Hammargren. As always, you are fantastic, and you know very much about us than we about you. Thank you very much. Now we are going to speak about the freedom of speech, and I will invite now Mr. Burhan Sönmez, who is an award-winning Kurdish novelist in Turkey and human rights lawyer. And Burhan Sönmez is also elected as president of PEN International. He is the first Kurd who is the president of all PEN International. So very welcome. And the floor is yours. And if you could answer, how is the situation for the freedom of speech in Turkey? And if you also, I know that you are founder of the opposition newspaper daily Bir Gün. How is the situation for the opposition media today in Turkey? But 12 minutes is yours, so you can speak about what you like.
Thank you very much, Kurdo. Sarsaran Serçavan. Good night. Now I live in England and in Istanbul. Our London office center is in London. So most of time we are in London, in the UK, and traveling, of course, every week to a different place. One of the places that we travel most is my, place, Istanbul. Last time I was there was last month. We went with an international delegation at the Gezi trial. We tried to support our friends. Unfortunately, the outcome was not, so sweet. Osman Kavala been in prison for 5 years, and they arrested another 7 friends. This is the thing that we are focusing on. As writers, what is your concern in this world, in this life? PEN International is now 101 years old, the oldest international human rights NGO in the world. When we started in 1921 in London, the main aim was to create a solidarity between writers. But before long, just after 12 years, in 1933, we had our first big band, because the Nazi nationalism rising across Europe, and it was affecting everyone, including writers. And PEN started to take a different approach at that time, because writers write, they support each other, but also they defend freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and they defend writers if they are being oppressed by their governments. Since then, PEN International has got 2 main stands. The one is promoting literature across the world in every language, including my own banned language, mother tongue Kurdish, and we are always working for freedom of expression. What does it mean, freedom of expression? The meaning always changing depending on the time and the country. Sometimes you lose your freedom because of state violence. They come, they kill you. They break your pen. They use censorship. But nowadays we have new challenges. Mostly they use just fake news, hate speech, or they want to scare you with the means of surveillance. That kind of things now come together. And in countries like Turkey, like Ukraine, like Afghanistan, Myanmar, we got so many cases, unfortunately. Every year we publish a case list, we call it, and more than 500 writers we name there as the main cases for PEN International every year. But we know that actually the cases are more than 10,000 every year. That means we need stronger PEN International. We need stronger NGOs. We need more writers, more artists, more people of culture who do things for people that they don't know. When I go to Turkey, because I used to be a lawyer, so I have lawyer ID. That's a privilege for me, so I can go to prisons to visit people. I go visit Selahattin Demirtas or İlhan Sami Çomak, Osman Kavala. This is something different because I know them. They are my friends. We struggle together. But 99% of writers that we struggle for, we fight for, are people we don't know. This is the nature of mankind for us. We want to promote. We do things for the sake of dignity of people, for people that we don't know. People in Myanmar, in Uganda, in Nicaragua, they need our help. Just yesterday morning, early in the morning, I was in Norway. I just was part of a conference. I received an email from a Kurdish journalist friend who is in exile now in Europe. He said that I'd like to inform you about a common Kurdish journalist friend. He just fled Turkey yesterday because he was sentenced 7 years to prison. Now he needs help in another European country. I cannot share with you the details, the name of the country. So I wrote to them yesterday. So today we are, what is this? What kind of the world that we are living in 21st century? Russia is going to Ukraine to invade another land. Turkish army been in, we call it Rojava, Western Kurdistan in Syria for 3 years. And they claim that they do it to protect their nation against terrorism. And then they tell us, they say that as people of culture, people of art, writers, you should be silent. If you don't support, at least be silent. 3 years ago, when Turkish army went to Afrin to invade that land, in Turkey, a few hundred writers, journalists, academics, we released something very short. We said that we are not part of this war. And then suddenly we all found ourselves as the number one enemy of the state. This is a simple threatening language and policy everyone uses. We know this language from Putin, from Modi in India, from Duterte, from Bolsonaro and Erdogan. Every dictator is copying one another. Erdogan would like to be like Putin. Putin is copying, Bolsonaro, Duterte. But we have something different. We don't copy each other. We get strength from each other's energy. Because I know that wherever I go, I'm never alone. There are people like me, people I don't know, people I will first time meet, maybe I will never meet. I know that if anything happens to me, I will never be left alone. I know Ragip abi from Turkey. He wouldn't remember it. When I was 18 years old, a law faculty student in Istanbul, we would go to their place, to that book distribution center in Cağaloğlu. He was always there. He and his generation, they were our heroes because they paid big price, like other millions of people in Turkey, in neighboring countries. So, what's our job? I write and I fight for myself and for people.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this introduction. Once again, congratulations to the president of that. When they, in our days, today, these days, so many journalists call me and we speak about the mini list of Erdogan and the big list of the Swedish related persons. And in this mini list, we have 9 names, and one of them is dead, Mr. Siraj. But we have 8 persons in this list. It can be interesting for everybody here. 5 of them are Turks, but I have problem with Ragip Zarakolu because the Turkish government say he's a Kurd. Because officially he's, and we know many of us here in the room, we know Mr. Ragip very well, and he's one of these 8 alive and 1 dead that Mr. Erdogan wanted to extradite to Büyükada, where he grew up, I think. And I am very happy that you are with us because you are the maybe the bravest publisher I know in my life all over the world, and I have traveled very much. And also your solidarity with the minorities, your maybe you have 40 trials because of books about Armenian genocide, about the Kurds. I don't know. I think you are sometimes you are Armenian, you are Turk, you are Kurd, you are Swedish, you are everything. And I'm very happy today that you are a Swedish citizen, and we must give him applause because this is a symbolic passport, maybe for many of us. We don't care about it, but this Swedish passport means very much, especially when I see your name in Swedish TRT and every day about Mr. Zarakolu, this dangerous man. So I just like to invite up the very dangerous man, Ragip Zarakolu. 12 minutes for you. Welcome.
Thank you for your attending this meeting. Yes, I am one of the wanted persons, very dangerous terrorist. Sure, I am a terrorist because my arm, my weapon is pen, and my bullets are my words. And sometimes the dictators like Erdogan found more dangerous than real arms this, and injured. I confess I injured him a lot with my articles. I'm going on to write in Turkey today for 2 daily newspapers, one Kurdish, one left newspaper daily. Sometimes I'm asking, I don't want to make problem for you. If you want, I can stop. But really, there is a courageous press in Turkey. And there are many courageous people. Today, I think, people released over 160 people were in the streets because of the conviction of Gezi trial. I'm proud of them. So, Mr. Erdogan has a kind of paranoia, like all dictators. And he made state, deep state, high security deep states. But it is not new for us. It is unfortunately a strong tradition of Turkish state. I came Sweden in 95. That time I was vice chair of Human Rights Association for a conference in Geneva, United Nations. And then I passed to Stockholm, and later I passed to Oslo. And I was with Ahmet Altan with there. And he had his first problem, his first conviction. Because of that, he was convicted. The title of the article was Atakürt. It was a critics of Turkish nationalism and Turkish official ideology, Kemalism. And what happened to Ahmet? Ahmet suffered a long time in the prison. And then, you know, the sultans, emperors, sometimes they permit, okay, this is enough, release him. But it is not enough for Osman Kavala. He's a really unbelievable cultural man, support of minority rights, a dialogue between the communities, freedom of expression, and it's unbelievable to put in the prison more than 6 hours, I think, now. This is the situation now in Turkey. In Turkey, there are writers forgotten in the prison. I can give some names of them. It's unbelievable. Some writers are in the prison 30 years, 28 years, and they enter prison because of some young activism, 1 year at most. And they were convicted by state security courts. State security courts was built up by military junta, but so-called civil governments went out with these state security courts. At the end, Turkish state itself canceled these courts and they were closed. But their decisions are going on. I can give some names. Erdal Süsem, 20 years. Erol Zavar, 21 years. Hatice Duman, 19 years. Kenan Kavavil, 18 years. Mustafa Gök, 18 years. Mithat Akgül, 12 years in the prison. And also, the writers and human activists are waiting to go in prison. First of all, Eren Keskin, he got Swedish PEN's Kurtolsky Award, as you know. There is 124 trials against her, and some convictions approved, and she's waiting with her bag to go in prison. Journalist Defense Committee, GPG, made a report 20 for the 221. Now, that year there were 293 journalists were in the world, and Turkish number is 17, and Turkey is at the 6th in this list. But 1 year before, Turkey was second after China. This kind of critics help sometimes people, so they are releasing some journalists, but with the condition of to be under the control. You must every week go to police and sign you are available. This is a kind of house arresting. After China, a second country is Myanmar, third Egypt, Vietnam 23, 19 Belarus, and Turkey left there. After Turkey, Eritrea 16, Russia 14, Saudi Arabia 14, and Iran 11. So Turkey passed Eritrea, Russia, Saudi Arabistan, and Iran with the journalists in the, and these numbers are based on only professional proved journalists. But you know, in dissident press there are a lot of journalists, only symbolic card, and they were not unfortunately accepted as journalists. These countries, none of them are member of NATO and member of European Council. Turkey is a member of European Council more than 50 years, and one of the first members of NATO. And Turkey has right now to put NATO a veto against Sweden and Finland membership. So there is a problem, not with Turkey, there is a problem with NATO. Also, there is a problem with European Council. For example, in 67, there was a coup d'etat in Greece, and the European Council fired Greece from European Council. After 1980 military coup, European Council didn't give red card to Turkey, and the membership went on. The NATO same, and it is more interesting that time the military government, junta government, approved Greek membership of NATO. A junta government approved membership of NATO. It is also a very interesting example. So we must, in the Europe, in the United States, must force more on the governments. Only civil society can make a pressure on the government policies and prevent the double standards. Now, in Turkish prisons, this is given the list given by journalist syndicate trade union of Turkey. There are professional 23 journalists in the prison, and 4 of them from Kurdish press, 7 of them from left press, and 12 of them are from Fethullah Gülen supporters press. So they are the champion in the list of the professional journalists. And some of them were a long time. The sole press names are long time in the press because of I talk about state security courts. For example, Kenan Karavil, editor of Radio Dünya, 18 years in the prison. Hatice Duman, she is 19 years in the prison. And other names are mostly from 2016 after the coup and counter-coup d'etat in 1916.
Yes, can I just ask you one? It's very important for me that you don't forget. Erdogan has stopped your emekli maaşı, retirement.
Yeah.
What is your feeling about that? You cannot. What does it mean to you?
It is exactly a harassment because Turkish law, you can't touch pension. In Turkish laws also, it's an authoritarian country, but in this country also, it is illegal, not acceptable. But he did this first Fethullah Gülen, and second Can Dündar, and third me. He honored me.
So you are in a difficult league, alone, 3 persons in.
Yeah.
Fethullah Gülen, Can Dündar, and you.
Also, you know, he demanded extradition for me from Sweden, and because, as you say, he defined me not only Kurdish, also as terrorist. But in his mentality,
Yes.
Kurds means terrorist, Erdogan's mentality. Because of that, there are many MPs of parliament in prison now, many mayors elected, many members of municipalities or city councils are in the prisons, very high number. It shows also what is understanding about Kurdish word,
Yes.
Mr. Erdogan. He was elected, unfortunately, with Kurdish votes also, because that time he cheated Kurdish people because he began peace process, and with peace talks it was very important. I'm afraid.
So he was first Mr. Hyde and then Dr. Jekyll.
Yes, exactly. And also we, as human rights defenders, we defended his rights also, because as a political Islam defender, they were under pressure of traditional Turkish nationalist Kemalist state. And that time I remember Şanar Yurdatıpan, he's a very successful supporter of human rights campaigns. Şanar Yurdatıpan, me, and Dilipak, he's one of the names of political Islam, and more important, Eigi, he's more interesting name. So 4 of us went for freedom of expression, but the place is selected. I accepted to go with them because the place was asylum of Istanbul, the mental disease people's hospital of Istanbul in Bakırköy, and we made a declaration for freedom of expression.
Yeah, we have 1 minute more. I just like, because we have international media here from all over the world now in this room. So I like to ask you directly here: are you concerned by these that Turkey wants you back?
I never concern for that, because Sweden is a country of law, and Swedish constitution give importance freedom of expression 200 years after the French Revolution. One of the first countries make this rule, and
Yes.
Legally I was demanded by Turkey, but Swedish High Court decided not acceptable this demand, and it finished legally, because the Swedish government can't do anything for this decision after the High Court, the Constitutional Court of the Sweden. Sweden is not Turkey. Mr. Erdogan don't care the decision of Turkish High Court, Turkish Constitutional Court, or European Court of Human Rights. There are many decisions about Osman Kavala or Demirtas to releasing, and he don't care. He's thinking, oh, Swedish government also can do, I can do that. They are very weak government. They can't manage. I can lecture them how to be a strong government. Hopefully, he will not give this conference.
Yes. Do you have something more to tell us, or we have passed 12 minutes?
Yeah, okay. So I want to give my solidarity to Gezi people, Osman Kavala, and some of them are my friends, boys and daughters. This is a kind of vampire state, so it must be finished.
Thank you very much. And you have our solidarity. Mr. Ragip, you have our solidarity. We are with you. Our hearts is with you. Thank you very much, and I will also invite Mrs. Viveka Sjögren from the Swedish Writers Association International Council. She will say something about freedom of speech maybe, and also something more about Turkey. Welcome.
So thank you. Let's see if I can get this to be tall, like me.
You are tall.
Yes, I know. So I'm very grateful for being here today, and also humbled by the audience here, and by no means an expert in this area, but as we are taking part of this arrangement, it felt good to take some of these 12 minutes, maybe not all of them, just to inform you a little bit of a project that the Swedish Writers Union is working with in Turkey. And for those of you who are not really familiar with the Swedish Writers Union, it's located here in Stockholm. We gather around 3,000 members, both writers and translators. And we, what we do mainly is safeguard our legal rights, but also human rights to some extent. And we try to work a lot together with associations like PEN and also ICORN to cover this more human area. So we live in a world run by mainly men with large egos at the moment, and it's dreadful to see. And you know, the Swedish girl Greta, who was sitting freezing a whole year, for what purpose? It's really so sad. But as a little light in comparison to this, I would just like to tell you about this project. And I thank you so much for talking about people and the importance of meeting the unknown friends and getting together with colleagues to find ways to work in this world together. So this was a thing that came up. We went to Istanbul with a section of fiction writers from the Swedish Writers Union because of one of the members who was there just for half a year to write with her husband, I think. And she got in contact with a consulate there, and they helped to put her together with some Turkish and some Kurdish writers, and formed a round table session that some Swedish writers also were invited to. And then I got involved with this in part 2 of this. So we went down again to Istanbul. It was supposed to have been in Sweden, but then the writers from Turkey didn't get the visas. So we went there instead. And we got together in Istanbul with both Turkish and Swedish and Kurdish writers, and had some very touching long discussions and talks and readings and reactions to each other's readings. And during this day we started to think about arranging some sort of exchange program between our countries. So what came out of this is two residencies, one for children and young adults, writers for those, in Bursa and Gülyasi, excuse me for my Turkish, yeah, where Swedish writers of children's literature can go for almost a month, once a year, and also to be in intermission a bit with the people there. They go to the libraries and they get to know the cultured people in the area. And then we have two residencies at the Swedish Research Institute in Istanbul. Twice a year, two writers or translators from Sweden go there and stay at the research center. And now we're very happy to tell you that the other way has been starting to work. So we have Turkish and Kurdish writers coming from Turkey to stay at the Baltic Center in Visby. And at the moment we have, right now, two people there called the Dennis Gedisliglu, something like that, and Birgül Ogus. And Dennis is a writer and translator of several non-fiction works from English, identifying as non-binary. Dennis' pronouns are they, them, and they hold a PhD in cinema and media research and are active in LGBTI movement in Turkey. And Birgül Ogus is the award-winning author of 2 novellas and a book of short stories. She co-wrote the screenplay Raptures, and Birgül was a participant in the International Writing Program in Iowa. And I just got to know this yesterday by Lena Pasternak, who works at the center. And then there will be others coming. And we from the Swedish Writers Union are now trying to find a way that we could also invite them here to Stockholm in some way, so that we really benefit from this exchange, so that we really come to an exchange, and it's not that we just go to our countries to write, but we really get to see each other. And there is also always a question, is it good to go to Turkey to do this? Are we supporting a regime that we shouldn't be supporting? But we have this discussion every year with the consulate, with the culture attachés, with the people in Bursa, and they still put a very, very heavy emphasis on the importance of, as you were talking about, building the bridges between people, that we are writers, we get together, we talk about our writings, our thoughts. It's like a side track to what's going on in this male playground, actually. Sorry, all men, but this is a bit of the case. So we still think that we should really hold on hard to this and even try to make it even more of a tradition, that we have these exchanges, that we don't give in to demands of closing borders and making us quiet. Yes.
Thank you very much, really. So